Welcome to our Spotlight series where we feature interviews with some of the organisations and experts that are mentioned on our website. Today, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Wendy Dolin, founder of the Medication-Induced Suicide Prevention and Education Foundation in memory of Stuart Dolin. Welcome, Wendy. Can you tell me what was behind you setting up this organisation?
15 years ago, Stuart, who was a high-powered lawyer in Chicago, no history of mental illness, no financial problems. And so 6 days, he started his first dose of Paxil, paroxetine. What is it called in the UK?
Seroxat. It's called, yeah.
Yes. He jumped in front of a train station in the city of Chicago, a complete shock to anybody who knew him. You say goodbye to your husband in the morning. Bye, honey. I love you. I'll see you later. And then the next thing you know, the Chicago Police Department is showing up at your home. And so when I did the research, I found the word akathisia.
So akathisia, it means literally an inability to sit still, doesn't it, in Greek? And
Right.
It's an adverse reaction to a drug. It's very often an antidepressant or a benzodiazepine or an antipsychotic, but there are a number of different drugs that can cause this.
Correct.
It's when you go on change dose or come off.
When we first started out, we were primarily learning about the outer symptoms, the agitation, inability to sit still, the pacing. But then over time, we learn more about the internal symptoms. You know, you feel like your brain is on fire. You feel like bugs are crawling on you. Your mouth is sucking on a battery. And I think the most important thing that people should realize is death by akathisia, you don't want to end your life. People want to end the reaction. And I think that's really an important difference. I mean, these are drug reactions, medical-induced suicides, and they're so powerful that akathisia can lead to violence, self-harm, and suicide. And over the years, we've learned that there's 4 types of akathisia. There's the chronic akathisia. These are people who, even if they stop the medications, they still can't stop the movements and the thinking. There's acute akathisia, which is what happened to Stuart, which was right away, 6 days, he had this reaction. Then there's tardive akathisia, which means it can start later. And from what I've been following in the UK, a lot of withdrawal akathisia. And withdrawal akathisia can give people suicidal thoughts.
Looking back, can you see that Stuart had all of those signs of akathisia?
He was pacing around the house, which he was not a pacer. He was sitting at the dinner tapping his leg. And he said to me, I don't get it, when I still feel so anxious.
When you saw that happen, obviously, you had no idea of what, as most people don't have any idea about akathisia. What did you think was happening?
I just thought he was anxious. I didn't have a red flag. I felt bad. It was more intense than I thought.
What do you wish you'd known then?
Great question. It's one thing to say I'm anxious, I'm feeling stressed, but to notice the tapping, the pacing, those outer symptoms, I think that I wish I would have known that those were symptoms of akathisia.
And so it's become your lifelong ambition, really, hasn't it, to spread the word about this?
So when we started MISSP, we were a Chicago grassroots organization, and we have spent the last 14 years really trying to really stick to our mission of prevention and education. We have done 5 videos, and we have almost 2 million views. We've had a podcast. Our most recent thing we've been doing is billboards. We actually did some in the UK and in Ireland. And we go to Psychotherapy Network conference. We have this gorgeous booth that we actually set up. We don't charge anybody for anything. And people come up and we say, hey, learn about akathisia. I've spoken for crisis intervention, gearing towards doctors and nurses, because We just want to spread the word. And the frustrating thing is, it's so simple. When you stop, start, or change the dose of a med, if you feel different or worse, get some information on it.
Absolutely. And how many different medications can cause this, do you think?
Oh, my goodness. Like Neurontin for pain, the antiemetics for nausea, Propecia, malaria drugs, Accutane for acne. The list goes on. And interestingly enough, even some of the over-the-counter drugs, like someone I know, son ended his life by suicide after getting akathisia after taking Benadryl, one of those antihistamines. So I think it's about tons and tons of classes of medication. And that's where I think MIST has made a significant difference. All we're saying is be aware. We're not anti-drug. We're not accusatory. So we're able to engage doctors and social workers. And I know a lot of people blame doctors, but in many ways, they've been given the false information that the rest of us have. When Paxil was first promoted, the drug company said, I believe, that it reduced suicide by 6.7%. It actually increased it by 800%. So that's a whole way of how drug trials are not done well.
What should happen if somebody starts having akathisia? They've taken an antidepressant and they have these symptoms. What should happen?
Okay, two things. First of all, MIST has done, I'm very proud of our work with the military. I learned from some of my veteran friends that they talk about the buddy system, that when you start a medication, you need to let somebody know. That's number one. The biggest issue that we have with MIST is at the end of our videos, we say, if you're experiencing akathisia, go to the nearest emergency room or call 911. Now, a lot of times this is where polypharma comes in. Well, let's increase the dose or let's add another one and you're getting worse. Or people feel like if they call 911, they're just going to be sedated. And quite frankly, we don't know what else to say.
I totally understand. But if someone has just gone on a medication and they start getting akathisia, then the received wisdom of continuing to take it is not applicable.
I know someone personally who I did a podcast with, and she ended up going away for the weekend and forgot her medication and started to get all sorts of side effects. And she was able to say to her doctor, I'm experiencing akathisia. And the doctor knew about it and said, go to your nearest pharmacy and I'll get you some more pills right away. So she was able to recognize, because she knew about the symptoms and was very grateful that she had that information.
And of course, the frustrating thing is when it's a reaction to an antidepressant or a psychiatric drug, that it is almost always put down to depression, as it was with Stuart as well. That was presumably the narrative.
The narrative, oh, he must have been a high-power attorney. They must have had money problems. He must have had mental health issues. The beauty of MIST, in a very sad way, is we've widened the view of suicide. For example, if someone had cancer, one of the first things you say to someone, what type of cancer? What's the origin? And yet we make this very broad generalization that suicide is because you've had mental health issues. And if that's what you think, you're missing an entire group to give support to.
That is so true. Wendy, how were you so convinced that Stuart's death was caused by the medication? Was it like just so out of character for him to take his life?
A couple of things. One, we had been together 42 years. I knew this man backwards and forwards, just this remarkable man. Number two, unbeknownst to me, my friends were doing research. And at that time, when I found out that the drug company knew this, I sued the drug company. And I ended up hiring a wonderful law firm, and a wonderful person from the law firm called me and said, Stuart died by akathisia, and this is why. And I heard and I read about it. And then they started sending me the actual drug trials. I mean, what was crazy was that people killed themselves during the drug trial and became akathisic and GSK didn't feel the need to report it. So when I knew that they knew it and all the symptoms fit Stuart to a T, it was so profound, the cognitive confusion. I mean, I hear this from a lot of people who lost someone to an akathisia suicide. Well, they'll talk about a simple math problem. They can't figure it out. Just this total almost psychosis without being psychotic, if that makes sense.
Well, it can lead to psychosis because people don't sleep for such a long time. I don't know whether that was the case with Stuart, that he didn't sleep for a number of... it's quite hard to sleep with akathisia.
Correct. It was a profound decline. My lawsuit's been written about in law schools because I was the first case in the United States to hold the main manufacturing company responsible when someone was on the generic. So I was featured in the New York Times and Law 360 and on TV, which was great because, forget the lawsuit, people were learning about akathisia. So the word became out there, and it was gratifying on that end.
What an amazing fight to embark on. My experience is that there are a lot of doctors who don't even know what akathisia is.
We went to London and spoke to the Royal College of Psychiatrists, and there was some question of whether they really wanted us there or not, but we sort of forced our way in. And actually, it was remarkable. So many doctors came up to me afterwards and said to us, "Why do you know more than we do?"
Wow. And the way that you talk about it makes it so much clearer as well. It's not suicidal thoughts at all. It's a completely separate entity that gives rise to suicidal thoughts because it's so intolerable.
I think it's very important for people to know you don't want to end your life. You usually want to end the feeling.
I completely understand. And having experienced it myself and not understanding it at the time when I was experiencing it, I have the words just are inadequate to describe what it's like and how your brain just goes to, I've got to end it because this is such agony, and there's no way out. There's not an end to it. Because you don't understand it. You can't envisage a time when you're not going to be in that state.
When I hear you talk or other people talk, that you were literally tortured.
Well, we do know that drug-induced akathisia is used, isn't it, as torture for prisoners of war in certain places. So finally, Wendy, how can people who are watching this, what do you want them to do? How can they help?
If you go to miss.co, we have all of our videos. There's resources. I mean, you can print out our brochures that we give out at conferences. We have our website. Of course, you want to donate to miss.co. It would be wonderful as well. But all we say to people is, if you have any colleagues, post it on Facebook. If you want to show our videos in any kind of clinical conference, and we do travel. We have gone to many, many different places, but it's mainly awareness. Just spread the word.
It is easy to understand it, and it would be so simple, wouldn't it? And what you're saying could be so powerful if, when people are experiencing these adverse reactions, that they get their doctors to listen, that they report it to the FDA, to the MHRA.
When you go to a doctor or you start a med, have you heard about akathisia, and start to educate people. David Healy has been wonderful in listing so many medications that can actually lead to akathisia.
Wendy, thank you so much. I really appreciate the work that you're doing in spreading the word about akathisia.
If there's ever a conference that's substantial enough that's worth us coming in person, let us know.